All right. Well, welcome to the IDCTA live Zoom stream interviews. Tonight's guest is somebody that works behind the scenes of our beloved eventing sport. Derek di Grazia is an American cross-country course designer who has been responsible for the 5-star course at the Kentucky 3-day event since 2011 and for the track at the Burley Horse Trials as well. He was also the designer for the track at the Tokyo Olympics in 2021. Like many course designers, Derek has ridden at the top level. He won Kentucky in 1985 on Sasquatch in the days before star classification, when it was simply an international advanced 3-day event. Personally speaking, I always feel a good challenge is ahead of us, but with the horse's safety and integrity intact, with a well-established course designer, and Derek is one of the best and favorites. Welcome, Derek.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Where are you these days with the big Kentucky event looming just around the corner?
Well, I started my design there last July, and so since last July, I've had actually 6 visits there, and we actually did the final set on the course the last time I was there, which was in February, and then I met with the TDs there at the end of March to look at everything, and now they're just doing all the finishing, and then the decorating will start this coming weekend. So it's well on the way, and it's looking very good so far.
That's awesome. We're going to talk about the Kentucky course in a little bit, but what are some of the biggest changes in cross-country design since you ran in 1985?
Well, the big one, obviously, for all of us to remember the full format, and I call the full format, with roads and tracks and steeplechase. So that happened right around around the year 2000, and then from there it's evolved, and we've gone from what we called CICs and CCIs to now we have just long and short formats, and with that the cross country certainly has evolved, and I think that you find the short format courses are quite intense and very difficult usually to make the time, and so the horses have to go quite quickly. The long formats, obviously, still testing a horse's endurance, probably not like they did back when they had all the phases, but it's almost a different type of endurance.
Yeah.
And then the just the combinations, I think, have gotten more technical. You have to remember, I think all these riders have gotten, they've just gotten so good now, and they're on such good horses, and the fact that they also have to be so good on the flat and the dressage, because that has been the difficulty in that has been moved up, as well as the show jumping, again, being much more like a pure show jumping course, and especially at the higher heights at 1.25 and 1.30. So all around, the sport has changed, and it's made riders have to get better, and also have to have very horses that are really well trained. So that's what's happened really in the past 20 years.
Yeah. Well, the courses seem so they're still massive, and considering what we've doing roads and tracks beforehand, and today's event is a lot more technical, but let's say with your experience in the past, like picture here on Sasquatch, how's that given you an advantage towards course design? You understand the biomechanics and the horse breeding, and I think course design has also helped out with ridemanship and quality horses coming up through the ranks. how would you how would you say where your advantage of knowing what you've done in the past is plays into today's course design?
Now, I think, for myself, I think having ridden, and I still ride, and I don't compete as much anymore, but I still ride. But the thing is, I think having ridden, you understand what it feels like to go up and down hills, and you understand what the horse's stride does when they go up and down hills, and you also understand the relationship between jumps, and what it takes when you jump one jump on terrain or on flat, and what it takes between that jump and another jump to be able to have your horse back in a balanced canter, if that's what's needed, or else to be able to go forward and open the stride. I mean, so as having ridden, I think you understand all of this, but also on top of that, I think that teaching and watching lots of horses and riders on a regular basis, you also see that, and so it really helps you understand, what needs to happen and what does go on. And I think that's I think a great benefit over someone that probably hasn't done as much riding or competing, or in some cases hasn't ridden at all. So I think that it's really just understanding the whole process, and about what cross-country riding really is.
With you eliminate all the jumps on the Kentucky course, and you have this blank sheet of land there. What makes that piece of land so special for course designers such as yourself?
Well, I mean, Kentucky, it's an interesting piece of property, because I think a lot of people wouldn't really realize the changes in elevation in that property. But realistically, you're always going up or going down, and so there's not a lot of flat, and it's very subtle. And I think if you from start to finish, if you look at the graph of the changes in elevation, you'd understand what an effort it is for the horses to be able to travel over that piece of ground on an 11+ minute course. And so there is quite a lot of endurance there, and I think that the riders have to really realize this and not think that they're riding on a flat piece of ground.
Do you take into account like the soil and the age of the grass as well? I mean, you've seen courses like, let's say in England, the ground seems to be so much different than Kentucky, and I'm sure out west it's more sand. How would you compare the ground compared to other big
I mean,
venues?
the turf at the horse park is quite good, and I mean, the great thing about it is it's been in turf for many years. And we also have a footing program there to try to make the turf better each year, and so there's constant, whether it's aerating or the seeding, the fertilizer. It's sort of a whole program to try and develop the turf, and to develop the drainage, and so to provide the best footing possible. The big thing at the horse park is it's not just one event that runs there a year. They have many other horse trials that run there, and so the park is shared with all these other horse trials. And so and that's a challenge, because being able to try to maintain the footing on a year-round basis is more difficult, but in the end we get there, and it's just a matter of sort of sticking with it and being able to try to make the track, which changes from year to year. So that again, is a bit of a challenge, because we are changing where we're going in the park, but at the same time, the natural turf that's there is quite good.
After surveying the land, what's next? How do you determine where to start and where to finish, and where to put your technical questions versus your less technical questions? How does how does that flow in your head? Is there a mathematical equation you work through, or is it just the feel or intuition? How does that work?
Well, I mean, first of all, I mean, the start and the finish are, there are choices, there are, as you probably realize, the competition itself is quite a big competition, and there's a lot of other things that go on. And so, one, you have to be able to have your start and finish in a place that's going to be make it easy for the riders to get back and forth from the stable area, and also from there you have to take into consideration all of the different all of the different amenities that are needed at a start and finish, which a lot of people wouldn't think about, but you do have those things, and so it ends up taking up quite a big area. And so once you decide on this, then you are able to then start to plot your track. And each year I try to while we may be starting and finishing in sort of the relative same area, I like to try to change the course, to try to give a different feel so that the horses and riders see something different than what they saw the year before. So while some of the changes might not be huge, there still are changes there that are can be quite subtle, but it's also the fact that we have many different features that are on the courses year in and year out, but it's sort of how those features come in the course, whether they come early or they come at the end or the middle, but the fact is we do have a lot of great features there to be able to use and put into the course. So the biggest thing for me initially is to try to find a track that I think has good flow to it, and then you are able to work in the various features, which many will be some of your combinations. We're lucky enough to have 5 areas that we can have for water obstacles. We don't have to use them every year, but we typically use probably 4 different water jumps on the course each year. So and that's a big plus. But there are a lot of other great features in the park, and not only that, then you have the use of the various different terrain in the park that you're able to try to create, whether they're single jumps or combinations, be able to create what you want and how you want it to come up in the course.
I always like to clear up the the skepticism that goes out there, like a course designer is trying to trick you. And I'm sure, but when you run any of your courses, you really have to think out there. And it's not that you're trying to trap any horse with any of the obstacles you're setting up. It's a very fair thing you're asking. How can a rider look at your course and prepare for it, and the fact that they don't feel like they're being tricked? I mean, what are some objectives that some of these riders need to go out there with that look at your question that may seem quite daunting? What advice would you give them to ride your course? What's one main objective you want these riders to think through?
Well, I mean, the whole thing is that, especially at the 5-star level, you are thinking that this is the sort of what we call it the test of the training of the horse and rider, because this is the highest level. And so up until that point, they've been spending years on training their horses and going to different competitions and seeing different cross-country jumps, and all of that goes into having a horse that is capable of being able to compete at this level. On top of that, they have quite a lot of qualifications now that the FEI makes them do to make sure that they have those competitions under their belt, and that they've been successful at those competitions before they come to a competition of this level. You have to realize that, because we do not have any 5-star short competitions, that you are basically asking someone that has always competed at the 4-star level to then move up a level and compete at the 5-star level. So, and the 5-star level is longer. The jumps can be wider, and the technicality can just be a bit more than what it is at the 4-star level. So anyway, I think the big thing is I think the horse and rider have a good partnership, and that they have done their homework and done the training, done the competitions. Then they should be able to compete at this level.
I've seen some of the more technical jumps where you would put a easier route to get around, let's say, for those first timers that just want to get around the course and maybe not make the time. But can you elaborate on that, on some of the more technical questions? Sometimes
I think that putting alternate routes, there's a couple different thoughts about that. One is you typically will do that if the horse and rider have a run out or stop at a direct way. If there is not what I would call a good way to get back to that fence, then we'll always have an alternate fence. Consequently, if you have a combination where the rider jumps in, say if they jump into a water and they have a jump ahead of them in the water, but they land and they for all intents and purposes, you could say fall up the horse's neck or an out of position, that you then can give them a chance without making them have to go to the straight way. Give them a chance to go the longer way and recover, so then they can sort of carry on. Obviously, it's going to add a lot of time to their overall time of the course, but at the same time, it allows them to get through that combination and carry on. So, and I think also riders will also gauge as they're going around the course, how they're doing, how their horse is feeling, and whether or not they want to take on a straightaway, or if they want to take a little more time and just be able to get through that combination, so that they can sort of carry on and move on throughout the course. So there are various reasons, and they're not on all combinations, but there are alternate routes, and I have them this year, and they're sort of strategically placed because I think that it depends on the question that's being asked, and if it's felt that there is a need to have a longer way around.
Yeah, as you see pictured here, there are corner jumps in the water jump, and there's a skinny way in the backdrop with a black flag on it, which I'm guessing was a alternative route at one year. But this is also a good picture to talk about a little bit, where sometimes a competitor will see some innovative jumps or lines that we've never seen before. Is there a way that you have tested it before, or do you just rely on your intuition that this could work? And how does that evolution begin? Like, I couldn't imagine when the first corner jump came out, and there were troubles over that first corner jump, let alone the toothbrush jump that you see in the backdrop. I remember I still cringe my toes over those toothbrush jumps. What's your thought behind jump evolution and trying out new things and putting them in there?
No, I think that I wouldn't put anything on a course that I didn't think was going to work. That's the first thing. I think you have to always think that you're allowing the horse to see what they're going to jump, but also that it's a fair question. And that it's something that they, realistically, they should be able to jump. And so, again, if they have a good jump into the combination, then it's up to them to find their way out. And I think that, what we're seeing is that the riders have to know their horses. They have to know that if the horse lands short, and if they're going to wait and add a stride, or if they're going to keep going and try to open the stride. It's all about the rider's reaction, especially at this level, and that's where they have to have that instinct to be able to assess the situation and have not only a plan A but a plan B and a plan C. And that's the big part about riding, especially at the 5-star level. I think that more and more we see it at a lot of levels where we see riders walking strides between jumps, and they've gotten so reliant on saying that it has to be one stride or another. But the thing is, when you get to this level, or even 4-star level, where you have to be able to understand the ground, understand what a horse could do based on what happens going up or down, and also based on how they take the jumping into a combination, that they have to then be able to react to the situation and then be able to carry out whatever plan they have to get through the combination.
Yeah, and I see like this picture here has a frangible pin, or what would you call that on this oxer here?
Those are both MIM clips, and they're on the front and the back rail of this oxer. And again, a safety device that's been developed and has developed probably over the past 10 or 12 years, and it's evolved, and so it's the device. The pressures that it takes to knock a rail down have been fine-tuned more and more over the years, and I think that these devices do work quite well. I mean, we have to always realize that they're not going to work 100% of the time, but they work most of the time, and I've seen them work. And you also have a frangible pin, which is a British pin that can be used on the back rails of these oxers as well. So you have a choice between a MIM clip and a frangible pin on the back rail of the oxers. But you have the MIM clip is being used quite a lot on vertical posts and rails, on oxers. They have actually MIM tables now, and they have gates that are MIMs. So they're you can adapt them to quite a lot of different types of jumps.
Very cool. Is there a crew that works for you, and are some of the jumps built off site?
Most, like in Kentucky, all those jumps are built on site, and the Kentucky crew is a different crew than I have working than I have that do other events. I actually have different people at each event, but the Kentucky crew, Mick Costello has been the lead builder there for, gosh, I couldn't even tell you how many years. It's been a lot. It's over 20 years. So, but anyway, he's quite an artist himself, in that he basically takes all this material that he gets and he mills it and makes the different pieces of wood for all the jumps. And I think that's what's so wonderful about Kentucky, is I think that you'll see the craftsmanship and the wood that's used there, because it's all various types of wood, and you'll see jumps there that you probably wouldn't see in most places.
I'm sure that Kentucky offers that quite a bit too, with their supplies, and I'm sure having a relationship with Mick so long, that he can practically read your mind of what you want, huh?
Well, we've actually known each other since I was 14. So we worked together when Mick was at Pebble Beach in California. I was there as well, So we sort of grew up there and with the horses, and Mick was also riding, and he was building jumps, and so I've known Mick a long time. So, and then we have now Mick's brought in Tyson Rementer and Levy Rickeveret, and two great builders, and then there are two or three other builders on the crew that do quite a lot for the competition. So it's quite a good group.
I'm sure that like here, there's a picture of a jump that's created but doesn't have all the brush in it. It's just the naked jump. And do you plan with the people decorating the jumps as well? How you want them decorated? Is there a criteria?
No, we have a whole decorating design that I do. Especially when I'm putting the whole course together, I'll go through and do the whole decorating design for the course. Then I meet with Sheila Worth, who is the one who takes care of all the decorations. She has got a crew of, I think she told me this year, 175 people.
Wow.
That come in and help with all the decoration. And they're quite amazing. Sheila is very good she knows her flowers, I can tell you that. And so she gets my design every year. Usually in the fall she'll have it, and so she'll start doing her count, because she has to do her order all the flowers for the competition. And then it is quite a plan that she has, and the crew, and they all know what they're supposed to do, and they do quite an amazing job. So it's quite remarkable what they're able to do.
After the event is finished, is there, I'm sure you're ready to take a vacation, but is there data collected on each of the jumps?
Well, they automatically do that. They do that at every competition, actually. As far as the horses, if they jump them clear, if they have a run out or two run outs or stops or whatever. I mean, that's all recorded, and so there is data on all of this. Obviously, we also know if I want to go back. Actually, I have all my own files anyway, but just to know what types of jumps. But most of the course is all taken down, and then we start over again for the next year. So the only thing we have is we do have the portable jumps that we build. We obviously recycle those, and if they need repair or whatever, then we'll do that. But we're always, every year we're building sort of new portables, and all the in-ground jumps are new every year.
Have you seen jumps that you put in that created some pretty scary results, but you wanted, and then towards the end of the event, riders figure out how to get it done, and or the following year maybe you keep it in, or do you just go, let's scrap that idea and do something different? What kind of criteria to go by on that?
Usually, if something doesn't work the way I thought it was going to work, you won't see it the next year. So it's pretty simple.
So you have in mind, when you put something together, you say, this is ideally how I want somebody to ride this. And if it doesn't really match your picture, this is creating too many different different results.
It just depends whether you obviously, if you had too many run outs for stops at a particular jump, or if it just didn't jump well the way it was thought that it would jump, then there's no reason to do it again. So just go do something.
Yeah. So what do you have in store for us this year in Kentucky? Any new attractions?
Actually there are some new attractions, because they have some new sponsors, and so we've got some new Tyson's been busy with his carving, and so which is always fun. And then the course, as always, the course does have some new twists and turns, and is quite different. Well, it's actually quite different than the year before. So,
Cool.
which to me is always, it's always fun, because I get a little bit bored seeing the same thing year after year. So I want to change it up, all the time, because it makes it more interesting.
Is there one jump in particular, or you want to kind of give us a clue?
Oh, yeah,
Like the
show
coffin jump
Show
last year, that was pretty difficult.
You have to come see the competition.
Yeah. So do you have any favorites that are coming through?
Well, I don't know. I just I don't know. I just I think that there are always sort of, I think, different challenges, and I'm always interested to see, because I think that there are combinations where the riders can do one thing or another, and it's always interesting to see. But that always depends on what they're riding, and how they're going on the day. And so, but it's always interesting to see the different choices that the riders make. And there's always a very good field of riders at the competition, and it is always great to see these horses, because they're all pretty phenomenal horses that come and compete there.
Where is it that you are during the competition that you're getting to watch your masterpiece being jumped and seeing how it's going? Where is it that you are?
I stay with the ground jury in the control center, and we have monitors where we can watch pretty much all the way around the course, and so we're able to see quite a lot, because especially now the course designer confers with the ground jury if they're seeing, depending on how things are going on the course, good, bad, or also if you see horses that are tired or not jumping well. I think that it's basically a real team effort now, and so I'm in the control area with the ground jury.
Tell us your emotions the night before cross country and during cross country and after cross country. Are you as nervous as the riders are?
I don't know. I think it's me. It's more, you've been working on something for a long period of time, and I think I just want to get it started. To me, because I'm always interested to see the course ride, and obviously also I think the other thing that's interesting in the end too is to see how the time for the course rides, depending on it, and that's based a lot on the track and on the combinations, and so that's always an interesting thing, because then you really sort of are going to be able to see what kind of competition it's going to be.
That's the most common thing I hear of the Kentucky course that you design is towards the end of the course, you've really got to play smart through your whole course so that you have some horse by the end of the course.
Yeah, and it's no different this year, and that's for sure. So I think the riders have to realize that they have to have a horse that's fit, and they themselves have to play it smart and be thinking as they go around, because they want to make sure they have a horse to finish with, and that is still jumping well at the end.
Well, after Kentucky Land Rover event is done, what's next for you?
Well, I keep going. I have Bromont, which comes up in the first part of June, and then we sort of work through the summer, and I do Bromont, their Nations Cup in August, and then I am working on Burley horse trials, which I was there in March, and I'll go back there in June. And then I'm there a couple times in August, and the event's the end of August. And so that's another obviously big competition, and there's a lot to do. So it keeps me busy.
Well, that's another really big 5-star. And I mean, the big ones that we first come to mind is Badminton, Kentucky, and Burley. Is there one you feel is more, how are they different from each other? Is one more technical? Is one more hilly? Or
Yeah, no, they each have their own characteristic, and you know, I will say that Burley has probably got more terrain than any of them. So it's something you have to respect, and you have to understand that when you're doing the design there. And so it's you know, it's been going since 1961, so it's been around for a while, and they have, again, they have their own feature fences that everybody knows, and so it's a big challenge. And I did my first year last year, and so again, each time you go there, you learn more and more. So it is something that makes you think.
yeah. So there's a lot of aspiring riders out there that want to do a 5-star course one day, and young riders and pony clubbers. What is one thing you tell them to work on to maybe one day do your 5-star course?
Well, I think, you know, the big thing is obviously there's no matter what, I mean, there's so much time and dedication that goes into being able to compete in the sport, especially at the highest level. And I think that you can't substitute you know, the time that it takes
Yeah.
to do this, and to be able to do it right, and then to be able to have a horse that you develop a partnership with, because really when you're competing, especially at any level, I mean, you want to have that partnership, because your horse needs you and you need your horse. So I think it makes a big difference in the end, if you have that partnership. And then obviously the training is a huge part of it, and you can't cut corners. You have to, you know, spend the time learning the basics, getting all those, and not trying to get there too quickly. I think that you have to be able to make sure that all your bases are covered before you sort of start yourself moving up the levels. And that's it's a big part of it. And you know, I think you see many that try to cut the corners, and it doesn't help them in the end. So but it's that time and that dedication, because I think that you can accomplish a lot, and I think you just need that sort of, you need that determination to be able to get there.
Oh, I really appreciate this, Derek. Well, I would like to ask Molly if there's any particular questions that came through that we could ask Derek.
Not at this point. It looks like there's no questions so far.
Well,
now I have a question for you, because I was watching on one of the pictures that showed those pins that you were talking about. That what happens to the jump if that's sprung? What happens? Does that board fall down, or that
the rail falls down, and then
okay?
And then
right. That looked like a harrowing. I was an eventer, but a very low level eventer, and those were terrifying stuff like that. This one,
right,
this one.
right. You know, it is. Yeah, I mean, the rails fall down, and basically I've seen these deploy, and I've seen horses, you know, hit the rails fall down, and the horse lands on the other side and keeps cantering right off. So
is that right? Wow. Well, what is that counted as? If the rail falls off, what happens in terms of
11 penalties?
Oh, one penalty. Okay.
11 penalties.
11. I was gonna say
Yeah.
one isn't enough.
No,
you know,
it's 11 penalties. And
I know
wow.
in Tokyo there was a debate with a pin coming out of the water. I remember Michael Young hit that pin, or he was going a little faster through the water and hit the pin really light, and the pin broke, and there was a different degree of pin. Can you talk a little bit about that?
No, he does. He does he broke a corner, a men's corner, and the you know, and the thing is that it takes a certain amount of force to break the corner, or to break the men's, and obviously, you know, he hit that mem with that amount of force to be able to break that. And obviously, being the favorite as he was, I think that a lot of people were obviously very upset that happened.
I
Right.
bet they were, yeah.
Are there
We do,
different,
we do have a question, real quick. What,
before the
what do-
question,
I'm
before the
sorry.
question, are there different grades of pins that one handles more pressure than the other?
Yes, they have two. They have a red clip and a yellow clip, and one will break a lot easier, and typically are used on. They have different types of jumps, and depends on whether you're jumping it on an angle. If you're jumping it on an angle, you'll put a yellow clip because you won't hit the rail with as much force when you jump it on an angle, and then the corners are done on yellow clips as well. And so there are various types of jumps that will take the yellow clip as opposed to a red clip.
I see. Very good. All right, Molly, what's the question?
What, Derek, what do you think is the most important quality to have in a 5-star horse?
It's quite interesting because a 5-star horse has to do a lot of things. But I think, you know, at the end of the day, I think that you have to have a horse that has heart and determination and motivation, and that wants to keep going and all the way, because, you know, it's sort of interesting because and I've spoken to many people about this, because I think a lot of people say, well, you need to have a thoroughbred, and you need to have a horse that's got a lot of thoroughbred. But also we've seen horses that don't have a lot of thoroughbred, but they've been every bit as quick and have had as much endurance. And so I think it's a lot of it's, you know, that horse that has that motivation to be able to want to keep going and want to keep jumping really well all the way throughout the course. And I think that you need that, because you can have a horse that's a great jumper, but if they don't have that endurance and the willingness to want to keep going and dig in, then you're probably not going to get there as well as that horse it really does. So, you know, there's so many other qualities, obviously, you know, the movement for the dressage, the ability, the jumping, you know, because we know how the show jumping is so important now. And so you have to have a horse that wants to not knock down the rails. And, you know, so it's, you know, to find a horse that has all these different qualities, you know, it's quite difficult. And obviously good training will take care of some of it, but, you know, you still have to have some of these qualities to try to get to that level.
Yeah. Well, Derek, I really appreciate your time here. And I have to say, on behalf of IDCTA and everyone present here, I really thank you for your expertise and sharing your time with us, because especially right before the Land Rover event, this is a super opportunity if anyone got to see it. So thank you so much.
Great. Well, thank you. It was nice to be here with you this evening.
I just want to add my thanks to Eric's, and this has been very informative. It's been a long time since I've been in at this level of understanding, or at least explanation on courses. And Eric's course walk, which he's doing at Kentucky, is always a favorite with our folks as well. So
Great.
Thank you so much.
Well, you have to let me know what you think after you walk around.
Absolutely. I hope to run into you out there.
Okay, well, very good.
All
Well,
right.
thank you very much.
Thank you.